You see that right there? The lady who cuts my hair somehow messed up my beard. She wasn't even supposed to be close to it. Normally I would just wait for it to grow back, but this video is pretty late as is, so we're gonna do this messed up beard and all. As I'm sure you guys know, I am more of a portable gamer, but on occasion, I actually play on screens larger than postage stamps. It's not all the time, but it happens. The folks over at BenQ, which previously hooked me up with the EX3501R, which is that 35-inch ultra-wide curved behemoth that I use as my primary video editing monitor, they also sent me the, here we go, EL2870U, billed as an affordable 4K gaming monitor, which is also capable of HDR. I mean, sort of HDR, to be fair, but I'll get to that later. Problem is, they sent me that monitor just before my shoulder surgery, and when I came back, I was really focused on portable gaming and current gaming news, so hardware reviews like this went on the back burner for a while. But I'm back, the shoulder is pretty good, and it's finally time to dive into this monitor. Is the EL2870U worth the money? Of course, full disclosure, though BenQ generously gave me this monitor for the review, just like they did with the ultra wide, I am not being paid by them to produce this video. These opinions are my own, and they didn't have to approve this video before it goes up or anything like that. As per usual, I will include an affiliate link of where you could buy this monitor, which helps support the channel greatly, but that won't stop me from mentioning any shortcomings I find with the device. I mean, you know me, you know my videos. I'm the guy who obsesses over the Game Boy, and in the same breath, fully admits that it's objectively a crappy piece of tech. That's how we roll here. So first, let's talk design. I mean, it's a monitor. There's very little you can do to reinvent the wheel there. The bezels are a bit thicker than I'm used to, but that's something I suspect 99% of people couldn't care about if their lives depended on it. On the positive side, unlike some other manufacturers, BenQ skipped the obnoxious gamer branding you see with similar products. Considering this is billed as a monitor primarily for gaming, I appreciate the discretion. Give me simple and elegant over stuff like this any day of the week. Honestly, I've wanted to invest in a serious gaming slash video editing laptop for a long time, and I have been thoroughly turned off by the fact that too many of them follow this, let's call it, design choice. I have a feeling this whole gamer branding stuff will be seen as a super techy trend in a few years if it isn't already, so thank you BenQ for not going with that. Anyway, let's talk specs. The EL2870U is a 28-inch VISA-compatible display and it has a maximum resolution of 3840 by 2160. It's a TN panel, which is a mixed bag when it comes to monitors. On one hand, it's the fastest type of monitor, easily having response times of around 1 millisecond, which is the case with this one. But on the other hand, color reproduction, brightness, and viewing angles can't match something like an IPS display. And this is not to say that it is awful or anything, it's just not the most color faithful tech out there for monitors. TN is definitely built for performance, having usually the highest refresh rates and lowest response times out there. This makes the EL2870U definitely ideal for gaming rather than tasks that would require more accurate color reproduction like video or photo editing. The EL2870U is an HDR monitor, which is a relatively new thing as far as TN panels are concerned, and there's a reason for that. In order to achieve true HDR, which stands for high dynamic range, a monitor would need to have at least a good 600 nits in brightness, ideally like 1000, and it would also have to display more than 10-bit colors to accurately reproduce the contrast between the light and dark parts of an image or a video. This guy right here caps out at 400 nits, and that's with the brightness enhancement engine kicking it up a few notches from its usual 300, which is about half of what a true HDR monitor would be blasting out of the screen. What this means is that while technically this monitor does HDR, you're not going to see the full effect. The hardware just can't get as bright as it has to for it. Colors won't be as deep and the contrast won't be as rich. That being said, most people wouldn't even notice HDR anyway, and that's assuming you have a console that can even do it, which right now is either the PS4 Pro or the Xbox One S S or One X. Me, I have a Switch and a regular old PS4, and the only thing I play on PC are old-ass computer games from the 90s. So this would make no difference for me anyway. I mean, the HDR being offered here is the kind of attribute that it's nice to have, but due to everything I just mentioned, would be a killer feature on an IPS monitor meant for editing photos, not necessarily this thing here. An IPS monitor would just do HDR much better, and the people who really need it, like say Photoshop wizards, would appreciate the effect far more. Going back to the whole thing about the great refresh rate and the response time of the EL2870U, this isn't to say the monitor is necessarily inferior to a more HDR capable panel, it's just better overall at gaming rather than working on photos. To put it plainly, the HDR capabilities of this guy are more of an experimental thing the way I see it. Now, as for input, the monitor has this button here on the corner that most people, like me, will probably confuse it at first for the on-off switch. That's actually the HDR toggle, which also brings up the brightness intelligence feature. This uses a sensor below the monitor to, well, monitor the lighting condition and adjust brightness accordingly, not unlike what your cell phone or smartwatch can do. There are buttons on the bottom here that allow you to mess around with settings and such, but to be completely honest with you guys, I never touch this stuff. Maybe I'm a filthy casual, maybe I already burned off my corneas too much in Beat Saber to even notice anymore, but generally speaking, stuff looks pretty good to me right out of the box. The monitor has two HDMI ports, a display port, a headphone jack, which is something a lot of monitors lack these days, but no USB, which I find a little disappointing. I don't know about you, but I am always running out of USB ports to charge my stuff, so when it comes to USB ports, more is better. So to finish, do I recommend the EL2870U? It's a great monitor for gaming, what with the high response time and the refresh rate. It's an elegant monitor that would be right at home at both a corporate or a home setting. The price is about right for what you're getting in the size and resolution department. And the only real drawback here is that the HDR promised in the box falls a little short of what true HDR actually accomplishes due to the hardware limitations of TN panels. It's just kind of halfway there as far as HDR is concerned. Then again, halfway decent HDR is still better than no HDR at all, which is the case for the majority, if not all, similarly sized and priced gaming monitors. So that's the EL2870U. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll try to answer whatever questions you have in the comments down below. As always, let me know where you're watching these videos from. I find it absolutely fascinating to learn of the places I'm reaching through these videos. And to BenQ, first, thank you so much for sending me this monitor, and apologies for taking this long to put out the review. And that's all the time I have for today. I'm Izzy, and I'm done.